Bradley Richardson is the creator of Advanced Adulting, which has coaching, speaking, and content to help grown-ass adults navigate midlife. He's a coach, a speaker, a 5-time author, a 3-time dad, and a 5th-generation Texan, and he will never let you forget that part. He is an Instagram sensation, helping people learn how to have better careers, better relationships, and just all around better lives. He's been a guest in the Find Me the Money podcast before, so we are happy to have him back with us today talking about having money conversations like a grown-ass adult. Welcome, Bradley.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Always fun to talk to you.
Always fun. We could talk for hours.
Okay.
Now, your platform, Advanced Adulting, is all about helping adults in their 40s, 50s, 60s finally get this being a grown-up thing right.
Right.
So between relationships and career drama, you help coach people through that, right?
I do. Well, it's all the things that we all encounter, but we're never really fully prepared for because we're going through it oftentimes for the first time or very differently than we were in our 20s or 30s. And yeah, part of that's career, relationships, money, all of those things.
Well, I think by the time we get to midlife, shouldn't we already have our act together?
I think that's one of the biggest myths right there is that, you'd expect by the time you hit a certain age or stage of life that you're supposed to have your shit together. But guess what? We don't, because we have these false expectations, or you don't know what you don't know, or you don't know how you're going to approach it, because who you are at 47 is a dramatically different human being than you were at 27. And I think that's a lot of it there is you're going through it for the first time. So no, not everybody has their act together. And you may, in one way, you may have the perfect career, make a boatload of money, but your relationships are a train wreck, or vice versa. So everybody's a little different on that.
Well, divorce, as we know, is a time for new beginnings. So I think if there's ever a time to start adulting the right way, divorce might be it, right?
Yeah, that definitely is a wake-up call, isn't it, for a lot of people? It's a chance not only to get your financial house in order, but your life and what you want and how you show up as well. So it's all of the above. It's a big life event that is it's a big change and not always easy, but you can come out the other side all right after time.
Well, certainly, it's one of the most traumatic things you can go through. I mean, I read a study that concluded it's the second most traumatic thing after the death of a very close loved one. So it's tough. We're talking today about having these money conversations, and it's not necessarily just about divorce, right? Money conversations in your romantic relationships can be really hard. Mm-hmm. And I thought you'd be a great person for us to address this topic with. So I want to start out a little bit with whatever you want to share about your divorce story, because I want you to bring this around to really knowing where you come from, like the type of upbringing you had and your family expectations and how that might play into these money conversations, because I think you have a unique perspective on that.
Well, it is unique. Yeah. I say it's unique, but you know what? I think a lot of people do, because a lot of people come to a marriage, especially later in life, with different upbringings, different values, and their value of money and how they approach money, think about money, their comfort level with money is all very different. And mine is, I grew up a kid in West Texas. I'm pretty self-made, and I ended up marrying a rich girl, which sounds great, sounds great on the surface, but we had a very, very different approach about money, thoughts about money, expectations, value. And it was there were many differences in the marriage, but that was a huge one right there. And, we were young, dumb, and stupid getting married and hadn't talked about these things, didn't know how to talk about these things. And these were just some fundamental differences, and we were never on the same page with it. I think a lot of people are. And that's not only about saving and spending and things like that, but I think it's about how your income and expectations for what's enough, what's suitable. And I think I told you this. I mean, I remember very early on, I got married. I was fortunate enough to have be a best-selling author, in my 20s. I was very successful by outward view, but I remember being sat down at 27 years old with my new father-in-law saying at the time, well, you know what? I think if you end up making about $400,000 a year, that's a good start. A good start? I'm 27 years old. Are you kidding me here? And that was kind of always the barometer that I had the measuring stick that I had to match. And it was that, and plus for us personally, it was you know, the idea of teamwork. I mean, it's such a corny word, but it really is. You need to be rowing in the same direction. Okay? You don't need to be lockstep on everything, but you need to be rowing in the same direction. And for us, a lot of times it was, hey, we need to save for this, or we need to make our own way. And if things got tough, guess what? A phone call was made to daddy, and he comes in and swoops in and does stuff. And it was crippling, absolutely crippling. And, you know, sometimes unless you get that stuff knocked out in the beginning, it is, there's really, it's hard to recover from. And I think the punchline on this is, since we're talking to people who are grown ass adults and advanced adults, don't make that same mistake twice. Don't make that same mistake twice. You need to get on the same page early on. And for me also, and I think a lot of people, shame was a big word with money. Okay. And for men and women, but especially for men, it can be very emasculating, you know, talking about money. If you're not making enough, you're having a rough patch, or you look, I mean, you want to make them happy. You want to meet people's expectations, but you can't always. And that's a tough part right there, is having those difficult conversations without shame, without judgment, you know, with some understanding, I think is just a key to doing it right, or at least making it easier.
Well, I do want to talk about those difficult conversations, but I want to wrap up the concept of your upbringing, your background, your money approach by saying what I see in my practice is you don't have to have the same upbringing, right? One of you is rich, one of you wasn't rich. That's okay, as long as you can come to a meeting of the minds now in terms of how are we going to approach money together? What's important to us? What are our money goals? And I would caution people, don't fool yourself. You know, when you're having this conversation with your significant other, whether you're on the same page or not, if your gut says he's just telling me what I want to hear, you ought to be real careful, right?
Oh, completely. Yeah, completely. And it's that, you know, we talk a lot, especially as we talk about divorce and things like that, about hiding money and lying and things. But that omission is a big one. And that not necessarily, I mean, granted, everybody's different, but I don't necessarily think that is done as much of in a situation like this, of as much as maliciously as just more of embarrassment, you know? And
Right.
especially if you are comfortable or have the confidence and are comfortable enough to know, hey, I can talk about this and not be judged or shamed, or it becomes a fight, you're going to be much more open about things. And it's not always easy, but it's a better way to go.
The hiding that I see most of the time, one of the most common things is hiding of credit card debt. So you're in this dating relationship and they're embarrassed to let you know, hey, I've got 12 grand of credit card debt sitting out there that I'm chipping away at $300 a month. And the problem I really have with that, so I personally am less bothered about the fact that you have the credit card debt if you're taking steps to be responsible about it and to pay it down. But it's when you hide it that lends itself to creating a bigger problem in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
So you mentioned having hard conversations and being brave enough to have those conversations about what you make, what your debts are, what you have, or being willing to say to your partner, no, this is not something that we can afford right now. What kind of advice do you have for people in relationships for approaching these hard conversations?
You know, I think just what we talked about, I think understanding someone's backgrounds, understanding their expectations, and you know, too many people operate, especially early in a relationship, they want to look good. You know, they want to look good, and that's a kind of a dirty thing, you know, to talk about. But I think being able to say, hey, here's where I come from, here's where I'm at with this. We love to just avoid it and skirt and think it's just going to take care of itself. And that's not it. I think it's also the looking at the overall picture of the person. I think sometimes it's this is how it's going to be. You know, we assume. I think that's part of it. We make assumptions that everyone views it my way, or this is how it's going to be, and couldn't be further from the truth. You may find some common ground. You may work towards common ground, but you cannot assume that your way is their way at all.
Well, the other thing is people think if we've got one person in the relationship who's a big spender and will spend every dime that comes in, and we've got the other person who's a super saver and they won't even go for a weekend away because that would be wasteful of money, and they are super far apart on how they handle money, some people think, oh, they could never come to a meeting of the minds. And that's just not true. There is a middle ground where you could make sure you're spending and having fun now while still saving for the future.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just, what do each of you value? What's important to you? You know, that's just that's it. And if you have that understanding of knowing where the other person is coming from and finding and being willing to make a compromise on that, both of you, not just one, then okay, you got a chance. You got a chance. But
Right.
we operate on autopilot way too often. And that's a huge part of it right there.
I think it's about asking a lot of questions. What amount of money would you feel comfortable spending on a weekend away? Is there an amount of money that wouldn't make you feel really anxious or things like that? I mean, getting real specific about questions, I think, is helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and understanding what does it mean to somebody? Is it freedom? Is it options? Is it safety? Is it security? What are you really looking for from money?
There's many times it's not the money itself or whatever the issue seems to be. There's probably an issue behind that we need to get to, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And income is a huge one there. It's just funny. It's like, an example. Okay. Like, let's say someone grew up and their parents were commission only or something, and you had wild swings and, great months and, down months and all of that. Well, that's something that really impacted how they view life. And so if they end up marrying someone or getting with someone like that, where you have, huge swings in your income, that just brings up all types of trauma and bullshit and things. And it can cause some big problems. Understanding, hey, I just need to feel a little safe. I need to feel a little secure in this because of what happened. But you don't. We operate in that. We start looking at the other person. Well, you need to do this instead of really looking at the root cause of it.
Well, that's a beautiful segue into the next question that I was going to ask you, because we're talking about having conversations like grown-ass adults. What if we're having one of these money conversations and our partner is shaming us and is being very judgy about money mistakes we've made or how we're spending our money or our views about money? How would you recommend handling that?
Well, you know what? Here's the thing. That shaming of a person is not unique to money. Okay? Let's just call it like it is. You got bigger issues if you're just basically embarrassing someone and shaming them on money. It happens to be a very personal thing. It's kind of like shaming someone over sex or making them feel embarrassed as well. And so on that, again, this is not exclusive to money. I think that is something that you need to look at and understanding, how that, letting them know how that makes you feel. How do they accept that? Are they aware of that? Do they continue with that? If not, well, there's bigger issues that require a therapist, counselor, or evaluating where your relationship is, more so than just money.
Okay. I'm with you on the same page with that. So one of the things that gets really interesting in the work that I do with the Divorce Money Guide is talking about not having secret accounts, not spending secretly. And, people will push back a little bit and say, hey, I still deserve to have some privacy in my relationship. I shouldn't have to expose every last detail. So,
right.
Where do you fall on that? Like, how do you find that balance between having some privacy and some independence, but not actively hiding things from your partner?
Well, those are two very important words, privacy and independence. Okay. Because we're all adults here. And you don't need to go to mom or dad and get an allowance and, can I spend this? Can I buy these shoes? Whatever. You should have your own private ability to be able to do what you want, whether it is collective money, whether it's your own money, whatever. Okay. But I think having that privacy and independence, but no hiding of things, I think that's it. You have you can do what you want with that. There are some big issues, some big ticket items or big life event things that, would require a collective, a joint decision. But for the most part, no one wants to feel like a child in a relationship. Okay. And the moment you have to either go to mom or dad or account for things that are just super personal like that, I think it erodes trust. It erodes confidence in the relationship. And, as long as you have and do your own thing, great. And we agree that on these communal things, we're going to have a conversation. You do you, and it's okay, because that's what starts hiding things.
So I'm on board with you on that, we should be able to do some autonomous spending, but there can become a problem if one person is wasting money and not working towards our goals. Maybe we're saving for a down payment on a house. You want to give them a level of autonomy, but there maybe needs to be a come to Jesus talk about our goals and about the reckless spending, don't you think?
There's totally a come to Jesus talk. There's many come to Jesus talks in any relationship about any number of subjects. But I think that's one that, having to talk once or twice, sure. If it becomes a pattern or just completely disrespectful of your common goals, I knew some couples that were just like, that were like that. They're working towards something, but one of them was just completely wheels off and defiant about it. Well, that's a you thing. You need to take care of that. No, this is a we. I think a lot of it goes back to, and this is, I do a lot of relationship type work. Okay. And I think that's it, is what type of relationship do you want to have? Because some people are okay with that. There's no right or wrong. It's what's right for you. But I think that, there's some core themes here. And
Yes.
I think that's a huge one of being able to just go, hey, this is what we're working for, here. And if you're okay with it, great. If not, then you guys need to reevaluate.
I'm a big believer in looking for compatibility. I think it's all cute and fun to say opposites attract, but on some core values in life, you need to find some compatibility. And I feel that money is one of them. And it doesn't mean we have to make the same thing, come from the same thing, necessarily have the exact same approach to money, but we have to have some level of common ground there in order for the relationship to work.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Look, when you're, as I said, when you're young, dumb, and stupid in your 20s, opposites attract. It's cool. You bet. It's fun. It's romantic. You can make it work for a while, but that doesn't have legs. Okay. And yes, I'm sure there are people out there who go, well, we made it work. Of course, broken clock is right twice a day. But for the most part, that doesn't mean you have to be, complete, aligned with everything. But as I said, you could be in different boats. You just need to be rowing in the same direction. That's it.
Right. And as we wrap up today, Bradley, I would like to know, for people who are in midlife and having these money conversations, what is the one big piece of advice that you would give them?
Well, I think one, you have to communicate. You have to communicate and look at what went wrong, or where the ball was dropped, or what you could have done better in your previous relationships, and just don't carry that forward. And so many times that's communication, that's consistency. Okay? That's a big thing. And knowing what you want out of the relationship and from money, and what role it plays in those relationships, being able to communicate it.
I love that advice. Now, I know that you have a free resource that you're offering for our listeners today, and it's about the 5 most important words to pull someone's mask back. Tell me a little bit more about that resource.
Well, I think, it's funny. It's 5 words that will really help you to peel back the onion. Because here's the thing. I see so many people in midlife that they get a new relationship, whether it's a friendship or more often a romantic relationship, and we take things on face value. We just accept it, and we run a script, and we go on autopilot. And that's how we get into problems, because we are unwilling or unable or unknowledgeable on how to really find out what's between the lines. What are you not telling me? What am I missing here? Not that people are lying, but we accept too much on face value. And so not only my own work I do with advanced adulting, but I spent several decades as an executive recruiter and headhunter. Basically, I was trained to read between the lines and find people's bullshit. And so I used a lot of those tools to be able to do that in people's personal life as well. And so I share that with people. So if they we'll have the link there, they can sign up for that. I'll send them the video and the PDF on what to really ask to quickly read between the lines and get the information and want to know, so you're not 3 weeks or 3 months into a relationship and go, well, I thought you meant, so you really know.
And you're so good at this stuff. I know that you have a monthly group membership for the group coaching. You're such a fantastic coach. I'd love to have you tell us a little bit about that membership.
Thank you. Yeah, it's just the advanced adulting community. And what it is, it's part group coaching, it's part connection, exclusive content. So people that follow on social media and such, it's a chance for us to get together once a week on Zoom, where I'll either teach a particular lesson, have interaction Q&A. I'll bring on guest experts like yourself and others that would talk about these particular issues, and a private Facebook group as well for members only that has archives of interviews, Q&A, content, things you can't get, plus a chance to realize, hey, you're not alone. You can communicate with other people really all over the world, men and women all over the world, who can ask questions, support, engage. And I'm really happy with that work. And so people can join that. It's a monthly subscription. You can cancel anytime. Just easy and affordable.
I love it. We will also link that in the show notes. Thank you so much for being here with us today. It is always fun to talk to you.
Thank you.